Hey, Mark.
Welcome to another episode of Faith Questions with Bishop Peter.
Thank you.
I've come across some research recently undertaken by the Barna Group in the United States. This is global research around teens, especially young people. And they've called the young people the open generation because their research has revealed a greater openness to faith and to God than their older parents or those in their 20s and 30s. I'll give you a quick quote to show this. As we have explored the profile that emerges, we have used words like optimistic, engaged, curious, authentic, inclusive, and collaborative. These are the words that are bubbling up from teens these days. From a global vantage point, there is a lightness of being among today's teens that is less common among young adults, even just a few years ahead of them. This is just one reason we're referring to these young people as the open generation. What are your thoughts on this emerging research and the teens around the world today?
Well, first of all, I really like the name, the open generation.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to me to say something in a way that maybe Generation Z or millennials doesn't. And I also harbour the hope that the open generation will be loved and cherished. It seems to me that sometimes when we hear people talk about millennials or Generation Z, Gen Z, it's with some disparagement. Right. They don't turn up to work or whatever.
Are these baby boomers making that criticism? Like
they possibly are. Anyway, it's not helpful, is it, in human relations to run a generation down, whether it's the ones who are older than us or the ones who are younger.
That's true.
And I love what the survey is showing about the open generation, that there is an openness to the things of God, openness to the world being a better place, and an openness to working towards the world being a better place. So there's a lot to commend in that generation.
Yes.
And one of the questions obviously for the church is, are we, if you like, an open church, open to the voices of this generation? Because when a group of people are open to authentic spirituality, are open to changing the world in terms of justice and righting wrongs and all that kind of thing, isn't that common currency with what the church is about as we seek to preach the good news of Jesus, who came to establish the kingdom of God, which is a kingdom of justice, but also a kingdom of God, of the things of God.
So our churches do stand for justice, of course they do, and it's expressed in our liturgies in all kinds of different ways, but we don't always necessarily give the impression that that is the case. Do you agree with that?
I do agree, but I agree with sympathy for churches that are struggling to look like they're actively committed in projects to do with justice, because we are finding that we're under quite a lot of pressure in church. Maybe fewer people are available to do the things that help Sunday worship to happen, and that exhausts us, and we maybe don't have a lot of energy for the other, roughly say 163 hours of the week to do other work in the community. But it's also the case, I think, that we know people used to be with us in worship, then perhaps have drifted away from worship, but they've not drifted away from involvement in community and doing things to help the world to be a better place. So it's really important that we somehow make the time to reflect on and to ponder how we can be a coherent, a whole church that worships God on Sundays and other times during the week, studies the Bible, prays, but also is engaged in that which changes the world. And it may be we reach out to people who were with us and have left us, and in this case the open generation would appear to be very keen on conversation with the church. And of course it's not just about the church saying to the open generation, we've come to help you. It's also, are we open to the open generation telling us how things might be different for us to be a better church?
That's really important, it seems to me. So the open generation do have this interest in making the world a better place, and that's surely what the gospel is all about. But they also have an interest in well-being.
True, yep.
And that's important, and it seems to me that spiritual well-being is almost at the heart of, in other words, being right with God inner community of the church. That's at the heart of being, well, as it were. Would you agree?
I do. When this open generation is also very open about, for example, mental health and whether people in this generation are feeling well mentally, which almost certainly includes emotionally, spiritually, and so forth. Now, when I was a teenager, we never talked about mental health, and if we had anxieties or stresses or burning anger within us, we didn't share that. We didn't say, excuse me, I need a mental health break or whatever. We just didn't have that language. The open generation and other generations now do have that language. But when we talk about mental health and well-being, we're often talking about, I'm in a difficult place in my life. I have hurts that are holding me back from being a flourishing human being. I want to be well. And the church is involved, always has been, in the mission of healing. And so what is our openness to work on ways in which the healing power of Jesus contributes to well-being in society? And it's a big challenge because a lot of people don't want to go to the church for well-being. There's a seminar down the road or some kind of sessions at a local institute, and they can all be really valuable. But as Christians, our gospel belief is that ultimate healing for human beings is found in relationship with Jesus. So we've got an opportunity. I think we've probably got an obligation as a church to work out what the gospel means in an age that's very open to saying we've got some mental health troubles.
Yeah, thank you for that. So let's, I guess, as a diocese and a family of churches, have our eyes open to the opportunity of engaging with young people who we maybe surprisingly realise that are more open to the gospel than their parents or an older generation. I think that's exciting to think that young people can engage with Christianity in a way that others have not.
The world keeps changing, and in this case, it appears to be a change for the better.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Bishop.